Hey, welcome back to Troll Time. I'm your host, Ivan D. Curtis, aka the Troll King. And this is a show where we talk about sports, movies, or anything thought provoking. Today, we'll be talking about college football, NFL football, and just particularly some games that we watch, some of our favorite teams, and just stand on the up and up a little bit in the football world. For those of you who've been tuned in, you know I don't do this show by myself. I do it with my trusty right-hand man, my brother, Antonio Williams. Hey, Willie, how you doing today, bro?
Man, we in here. Let's talk about some football. We got a lot going on with the W, but I'm all for the football talk too. That's where my fandom lies because I do this basketball stuff for a living.
No doubt. Now, I'm going to let y'all know, hey, Willie will probably carry me a lot with the football. I'm a Buckeye fan. We're going to open it up talking about the Buckeyes a little bit. They had a 38-7 victory over Michigan State. Play really well in my book. For those of you out here who say, oh, the Buckeyes don't play anybody, I don't give a damn. I'm from Ohio. I'm a Buckeye fan, so I'm a root for the Buckeyes. But we do have an electrifying freshman that I do want to talk about, Jeremiah Smith. Just freshman wide receiver. He's been killing it. I actually made a post yesterday talking about Jeremiah Smith, and actually between him and Ryan Williams from
My
Alabama.
cousin. My cousin.
Hey, we got a cousin everywhere.
No question.
But yeah, they're both putting up some great numbers. He played really well in that game. But for the season, Jeremiah Smith has 19 catches, receptions, 364 yards. That's an average of 19.2. As long as it's 70 yards, and he has 5 touchdowns. Definitely one of the main reasons why I tune in to watch the Buckeyes, along with Judkins and Travion Henderson. Ryan Howard has been steady for the Buckeyes, but their next opponent will be Iowa this Saturday, 3:30. I'm going to try to make sure I check it out. Now, I'll be at my daughter's birthday party, so I'm going to be checking in and out here and there.
Happy birthday to the young queen.
Yeah, but the party is from, I think, 1 to 5. The game is at 3:30, so I'll be checking in a little bit. I won't miss too much, but I just got to give some shout-out to my Buckeyes. Now, something that me and A. Willie talk about a lot is Colorado. We move with Prime. He's one of the most pulverizing figures in the college game. Colorado played Central Florida, and they look rather good, Willie? I mean, they looked really good. I mean, ran the ball, threw the ball, and Travis Hunter is just, he's that guy. I think anybody who watches college football knows that. But just, give your thoughts on the game, Willie. Colorado, Central Florida, they went into their house, took a dump in their toilet, didn't flush it, and got out of there with a win, man. Give me your thoughts on the game.
It's interesting because Colorado played a really good football team. UCF is a good team. Veteran quarterback, KJ Jefferson played at Arkansas. What I like, what Colorado's defense was able to do, get 13 tackles for losses. That means that they were in the backfield, whether that was quarterback hits, sacks, hitting running backs behind the line. They were able to get those tackles for losses. That's big because, again, once you increase that level of difficulty for the opposing offense and you put them in long, second down long situations, third down long is in long situations, you give an opportunity for that electric offense led by Shedeur Sanders. And then, of course, the aforementioned Travis Hunter and the host of other receivers as well that are good for Colorado. You give them more cracks at the apple. The other thing that Colorado was able to do too was run the ball. So they got over 100 yards rushing. So when they can do that, and then Shador doesn't have to throw for 400 for them to win, that really, really helps, especially as the calendar and the seasons start to turn. The one thing I'm concerned about, even though the defense did have double digits for tackles for losses, they still gave up, I think it's 177 yards rushing. Got to cut that number down if you really, really want to make that run. But overall, I am impressed. Of course, we tune in. We're Coach Prime all day. So let's go Buffs. Go.
Yeah, that's Skull Buffs. Colorado took care of business. Central Florida, Sanders threw for 290 yards. That was a 48-21 victory down in Florida. Travis Hunter, if you're watching college football, he's one of the best, if not the best, in the game.
He's the best player in the country.
Yeah, I mean, I think he took everybody by surprise when he struck the Heisman pose when he made that big interception. But he definitely, anything that he does is just do. I mean, he has 561 receiving yards. I think that was his second interception. Has a forced fumble. He's having a heck of a year. 6 touchdowns, doing everything that he can do for his Heisman candidacy. So we're tuned in every week. Colorado, nothing's going to change about that, and unless Prime happens to up and leave, which is many of the haters is probably hoping that does happen. But Colorado is off this week. I believe they're off.
Week,
they won't play again until October 12th against Kansas State.
Kansas, that's a big one.
Yeah, Kansas State is ranked. So I think from it's kind of funny with their schedule because they'll play Kansas State, and then after that they'll have a string where they'll play Arizona, Cincinnati, Texas Tech. Currently, teams that's not ranked in the top 25, but then they'll have Utah, who is ranked currently, as of right now in the top 25. So, and then they'll finish off the schedule with some tough ones against Kansas and Oklahoma State. But we'll be tuned in each and every week to give you our thoughts on the Buffs. Now, the main event for Saturday, this past Saturday, man, Georgia and Alabama. And I mean, that game was worth everything. I mean, it gave us everything we wanted out of a college football game. I mean, Georgia came out flat. Alabama was punishing them. And then before you know it, in the second half, it took on the game. The last 2.5 minutes, if you missed the whole game and you caught the last 2.5 minutes, that's particularly what college football is all about. Your thoughts on the game, Willie?
It's funny, man. Perception is reality, right? It's so crazy because if this game took place in the Big 12, especially when Texas and Oklahoma were in the Big 12, if this game took place in the Big 12 and those scores were like that and the lack of defense presented itself in the last 2 minutes the way that it did, people will be talking crazy about the Big 12. But the fact that it's the SEC, we all look at it in a completely different light. But having said that, it was a great game. Love to see these amazing players continue to emerge. Jalen Milroe, like you mentioned earlier, Ryan Williams, between Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams, Coach Prime, Shador Sanders, and Travis Hunter. You know what the united thing is, man? I know you and I talk about this in other sports as well. One of the things that I say, hashtag no humility. This ain't the place to be humble, right? And when you see the people that make it happen, especially when you look at, again, Shador, Travis, Jeremiah, Ryan, all stepped on the scene making things happen. Like, what? Red shirt gear? What? Let me go in here and ease my way in? Nah. No humility. I love it. Stand on who you are. 10 toes down. If you are thoroughbred, be a thoroughbred, and it does not matter. I love to see it again. Hashtag no humility, man.
Now, Alabama went on to win this game 41-34. Like I said, they hopped out on Georgia. It was 30-7 at halftime. Now, what I talk about is that last stretch. Georgia was down 33-21. Dylan Bell had a 3-yard touchdown run, and then Dylan Bell had another 67-yard touchdown pass from Carson Beck, and they didn't get the 2-point conversion, but they took the lead by 1. And this was at the 2:31 mark. Now I'm thinking that, man, Georgia got a shot to pull it off, and then what do you know? Ryan Williams catches a 75-yard pass from Jalen Milroe. Now this wasn't a typical just straight line 75-yard pass. I mean, he caught it, spent, made 2 defenders basically tackle themselves, and then he sprints into the end zone. And now this kid is only 17 years old. I believe he turned 18 rather soon or whatever. No different than, like I said, I mentioned Jeremiah Smith earlier. There's some young guys. I want to say, I think Jeremiah's older, like probably 18 or something like that. He won't turn 19, I think, to the week before the Michigan game. But he had a phenomenal game in that game. Ryan Williams, I mean, he's just been spectacular. I'm pulling up the stats right now, but overall for the season, he has 16 catches, 462 yards. That's a 28.9 average, 84-yard long. I think that happened in the second week or something like that. I seen that touchdown, and he has 5 touchdowns on the season. But he's just been spectacular for a kid like 17. This kid's in high school right now. They're suiting up for Friday nights, and here he is getting it done for Alabama, man. So hats off to Alabama for taking care of business. I mean, they're looking good. I kind of figured DeBoer was going to be more electrifying to the scoreboard than what we've seen typically from Alabama. I mean, they going to always have them dogs on defense. But offensively, I felt like they're going to be more scarier to watch. In that game, Jalen Milroe threw for 374 yards, had 117 on the ground, a total of 4 touchdowns. Williams, he had 6 catches for 177 yards. Over, I want to say 75 to 80% of his passing yards on the season is mainly to Williams. Right. And and it's scary to think that Beck, he threw for 439. But the 3 interceptions cost him. And they didn't run it particularly well on the ground either. Trevor Etienne only had 55 yards on the ground. So 4-0 for Alabama, 3-1 for Georgia. I think still at the end of the day, these are going to be 2 of the top teams when playoff time come. It's they're probably kind of glad they got it out the way early. So now you don't have to worry about that. Just giving a quick rundown of the top 25. Alabama at number 1, Texas 2, Ohio State 3, Tennessee 4, Georgia 5.
Time out. Let me ask you about this because there's a lot of talk about this. Texas went to number 2 and didn't lose. How do you feel about that when they were number 1?
You said it didn't lose?
Texas did not lose, and they went to number 2.
Yeah, I mean, considering the fact that Alabama beat Georgia, who's in was in the top 5.
Right.
That's the only reason, but you know how that's gonna play out, man. Like
absolutely,
they definitely. I mean, they all blue bloods, but it's Alabama at the end of the day. I mean, and me personally, at this point of the like this early in the season, I don't even know if I want that 1 spot. Like I mean, I'll take it, but I think you safer, dangling lower. I mean, depending on what happens, because it's a long season. The Big Ten has took a big jump. I mean, because you look at it, you got Ohio State and you got Oregon, Penn State, Three teams out of the Big Ten in the top 10. And Ohio State has to play Penn State, and they have to play Oregon. So it's gonna be some musical chairs going on as the season goes on. So I've never been a fan of having number one early. I like it later. But like I say, Alabama 1, Texas 2, Ohio State 3, Tennessee 4, Georgia 5, Oregon 6, Penn State 7, Miami 8, Missouri 9, and Michigan 10, USC, Ole Miss, LSU, Notre Dame, Clemson, Iowa State, BYU, Utah, Oklahoma, Kansas State, Boise State, Louisville, Indiana, Illinois, and Texas A&M. Indiana hopped into the top 25. They're 5-0. They wasn't ranked.
Defeated.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of big because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think Ohio State has to play them. If I'm not, so anytime we can have more ranked teams on our schedule, the better.
Right.
But I had made a post, like I said earlier, I talked about the post I made with Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith. If you had to choose which one you taking, and I'm going to ask you, hey, Willie, if you had to choose between the two, who you taking?
That's a hard one. That is a hard one. I would say, if I'm not mistaken, I think Jeremiah Smith might be a little bit bigger than Ryan Williams. But both of them are electrifying. So if I got to take one of them over the other one, man, that's tough.
Yeah, I'm going to give you the numbers. Brian Williams, he's 6 foot 175, and Jeremiah Smith is 6'3", 215.
Yeah, that's where I would take Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah.
But man, you can't lose with either one of them.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said if I had to close my eyes and and point in the direction, whichever player I pick, I wouldn't be mad at all.
Right.
I think this week coming up, hadn't really put a lot of targets on which game. I didn't really see any game. You see any games coming up this week that catch your eye?
In college football, I'll be looking at, again, SEC. We're looking at it's not a top 10 matchup, but I'll certainly be looking at Mizzou at Texas A&M because Texas A&M just getting into the poll at 25. Mizzou ranked inside the top 10. Mizzou having a road test, dealing with the 12th man at Texas A&M. That's going to be a big game. I can't wait to see that one. I say that because I was also born in St. Louis, grew up in California, born in St. Louis. So I root for the Tigers, and it's good to see them to be, playing relevant football. So I'm very much looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I think for me, as I look down the list, of course, I'm going to be keeping my eye on the Michigan-Washington game because, I got to drink my haterade for Michigan, being a Buckeye fan.
Right.
Miami, I'll probably check that out, the later game on ESPN. They play California 3-1, Miami 5-0. I just like Cam Ward.
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to be checking that out. But outside of that, that's pretty much it. Alabama has Vanderbilt. One of the things that always kind of ticked me off of being a Big Ten fan, obviously because of the Buckeyes, is that sometimes the argument of who's playing the most cupcakes. If you look at some of the SEC teams, the stronger SEC teams, they're not always playing some of the top teams in the country. I mean, they play some cupcakes too. The difference is who shows up in the big time matchups. That's what really matters at the end of the day. And I think a partner of mine, Ball Hawk, I think because a lot of people try to talk about players that come from the quote unquote stronger and bigger conferences. They tend to they overhype those players a lot compared
Absolutely.
to players that come from other conferences. And I'm pulling up what he just said. He said you gotta love the competition narrative. All these guys in the most competitive conferences don't turn into the better pros. but continue. And that's my boy Ahmad Rashad Hawkins. He has the Ball Hawk Show where he talks about a lot of different sports, but mainly talks about football. He played wide receiver at the University of Virginia.
Nice.
But yeah, so I always lean on him for kind of football stuff. But that's right though. Like the narrative is always different. One of my friends had made a comment on a post that I made about Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams is that Ryan Williams has played against competition, and basically Jeremiah Smith and the Buckeyes been playing against junior colleges. so, but we know what Buckeyes do when they suit up at wide receiver in the NFL. So I wasn't even mad about it. I just kind of just laughed it off. But
Right.
but that's SEC, no doubt about it. The cream of the crop in college football. I mean, there's no denying that. But at the end of the day, when we're talking about good players, let's just keep it at that.
Right.
But that rounds off college football. Now we'll get in and talk a little bit about the NFL. I personally am a Texas fan. I was a lifelong Giants fan, but the Giants, they just couldn't get it together for me. They didn't show enough concern for their fan base. Especially the way they treated Saquon. So I kind of had to dip. I became a free agent, picked up the Texans because I'm a C.J. Stroud fan because he played for who? The Ohio State Buckeyes. So I'm rocking with the Texans. Hey, Willie, who's your favorite team?
Man, I'm a Raider fan, but you see I'm wearing purple, so I'm dating right now. And I've been on dates in Baltimore, right? So that's why I'm wearing purple, because I've been on dates in Baltimore. I've been on a few dates in Baltimore. So, that's in addition to some other places, Baltimore. I'm kind of dating in Pittsburgh because I'm rooting for Justin Fields. So I got a couple dates. I'm seeing, a couple women I'm seeing in Pittsburgh as well. So, I'm dating around the country right now, but it ain't cheating because I let the Raiders know, man. Like it's hard being a Raider fan, very hard being a Raider fan because again, you talk about what they've done to a fan base, a loyal fan base at that, with I won't even say the lack of consistency because they've been consistently bad. And I'm rooting for Antonio Pierce. I definitely am. But I can't tell you that I'm dating, and I can't tell you that the Raiders don't know that I'm dating.
Now I was tuned in to the Texans game. They won 24-20, close game. I thought we was gonna pull away, but they let Jacksonville hang around. We actually were down 20-17. In the third quarter. It wasn't until 18 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Agumawale scored a 1-yard touchdown to take the lead and win the game. His sister was actually at the game. It was a video of them talking after the game. But, Texans 3-1, 2-0 at home. Big D'Amico Ryans fan. Actually watched him as a player and now watching him as a coach. It's always something about those former defensive players that turn head coaches. Sometimes you get nervous because you don't always think that offense is a major concern for them, but they definitely play defense in Houston. And having Stroud and then, of course, picking up Diggs and Mixon and those guys have they're turning the Texans around game by game. But any games catch your eye this past Sunday?
Man, between Sunday and Monday, I would say the Ravens and what they did in Buffalo again, because I'm dating in Baltimore, right? So. But what they were able to do in terms of, there was talk about Buffalo being the best team in the NFL, given the way that Josh Allen was playing earlier in the season, relying on other people not doing as much. There was a lot of fodder about if he said something that was directed toward Stephon Diggs or not, and he, of course, diffused that. And what the Ravens did to them, again, not only did they put it on them, but they came out the first play of the game. Derrick Henry, 87 yards. And when you do that and you do that untouched, yeah, that sets the tone for what this game is going to be. So between that, Lamar Jackson being Lamar Jackson, that game really stood out to me because I was expecting that to be a battle and it wasn't.
No, yeah, that 87 yard was just crazy. I mean, he hit up in there. And, Derrick Henry is obviously a big guy, but once he gets to going, it's definitely gonna be hard to break him down. But the way he shot up in there, you could not tell that he's a league vet. Like he looked fresh.
No
Getting up in
question.
there. Now the Ravens, they went on to win that game. Of course, they won that game 35-10. Lamar Jackson threw for 156 yards. Derrick Henry, he had 199 yards rushing. I don't think that when they're playing, if you're giving up that type of rushing to Derrick Henry, you're probably not going to win the game. It's going to be hard to beat. They ran for 271 yards. I can't remember exactly the stat. I was listening the other day. Is that they've outrushed a particular amount of teams by over 100 yards. I think matter of fact, I think in all four or either half of these games that they played already. I can't like I said, I can't remember, but that is a lot of rushing yards for a team that already ran even without Derrick Henry. I mean, so
Right.
one interesting take that I seen about Lamar Jackson. Of course, people make a big deal about his passing here and there or whatever, but Lamar, but he's just trying to win the games. Like his whole MO is just to win games, and I can't knock him for that attitude. Of course, quarterbacks going to always take scrutiny, especially the running quarterbacks. But the successful NFL quarterbacks nowadays, who isn't running with the ball? Like, I mean,
Right.
not saying you have to do it every snap or anything like that, but they're all running. I mean, it's a lot of successful quarterbacks running. Just unfortunately, we in the Mahomes era where he ain't always getting the job done pretty, but he's getting the job done, and he's not. I think me and you talked about that. He's knocking a lot of people out of position because if there is no Lamar, if there is no Mahomes, Lamar might have a chip. Josh Allen might have a chip. Like there's a lot of teams that we don't know what's to come these next 3 or 4 years because I'm looking at these as peak windows for a lot of these elite quarterbacks. The next 3 to 5 years, if Mahomes might stay in their way the entire time. Who knows?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now,
No.
would you want to say something?
No, I was just gonna say real quick. Lamar is in right in the top half of for passing yards in the NFL. Passing is down in the NFL in terms of passing yards. The first couple of weeks is actually down
Right.
a lot, and so this narrative that what the Ravens are doing is all running is just false. It's not all running. And people act like they're out there running the wing T out there that we ran when we played Pop Warner, man. Like, Lamar is still throwing passes and things of that nature, and because they are within. They gave up a lead to coincidentally they gave up a lead to my Raiders. Right, they were up 10 in the fourth quarter, and they came within an Isaiah Likely toe in Kansas City of winning that game in Kansas City to kick off the season. So you can make a serious case that the Ravens should be 4-0. That's despite having 3 new offensive linemen as starters. That's despite all of those things, trying to incorporate Derrick Henry as well, man. So, like, if they ever really, really get this thing going on all cylinders, the Ravens could be very dangerous. Their defense finally looked like a Ravens defense against Buffalo because before that they hadn't. But now they do. So if they're able to sustain that, I'm not ready to call them the best team in the NFL, man. Not saying that. But you can't say that when they're 2-2. But if they can sustain that and build off of this, like you said earlier about that number 1 ranking, it's not necessarily playing your best football the first Thursday in September. It's about as we get later in the season and the seasons I'm talking about in terms of the calendar season start to change, then you playing your best football.
No, no doubt. That was a Sunday night football game. It was 2 Monday night football games, of course. You had the Texans and the Dolphins, and then you had Seattle and Detroit. Talking about the Titans and the Dolphins. Man, the Titans put it on the Dolphins. It was only 9-3 at half. Will Levis got hurt that game. Mason Rudolph came in. He didn't make a major impact as far as in numbers, but the team took off and outscored the Dolphins 22-9 in the second half. They went on to win 31-12. Like I said, Rudolph was only 9 for 17, 85 yards. Will Levis was 3 for 4, 25 yards with a pick before he left the game. But Tony Pollard, 88 yards on the ground, 1 touchdown. Spears, 39 yards, 1 touchdown. They were doing kicking a lot of field goals for Tennessee in that game. But Tennessee 1-3, Dolphins 1-3. Not the kind of Monday night football game that everybody will be hype about. Of course, Miami is having their issues right now. From the little bit I watched the game, I know Tyreek Hill has to be frustrated because the timing is not there with him and Huntley. It was a few times that Tyreek Hill had his defender beat. Balls were being underthrown and different things like that. But it's going to be a process for Miami. Tennessee, I don't know what to expect much from them this season anyway. But Miami, this is, going to be a tough road for them after having high expectations. Your thoughts on that game, Willie?
First off, Mason Rudolph said, hey, I didn't have to do much, which means that the defense did their job for Tennessee. And again, it's crazy how when you don't hurt your football team, even if you don't help us win, just don't hurt us. And Will Levis's big issue is turnovers. And it's not just the turnovers. It's when the turnovers occur and the types of turnovers they are. We saw Brian Callahan really getting his ass one time when he just made a crazy, it's like, what are you doing? Right? And when I say, what are you doing? I'm putting it mildly. So again, you not turning the ball over. Then when you look at it in Miami, I would say you never want to see. You're not rooting for people not to do well, right? I'm not trying to be that much of a hater, but I'm gonna tell you, man, Tua is winning because remember when Miami is playing and you got Jalen Waddle and you got Tyreek Hill out there, there's this narrative that you could put anybody at quarterback and Miami's gonna be successful. Well, that's proven to be the otherwise now because clearly this team needs Tua. Here's the other thing that they need. They run a similar offense to San Francisco. Yeah, maybe when San Francisco has their full complement of players, they don't run it the same way because there's no Christian McCaffrey in Miami. But they run, because the coach in Miami is from the Shanahan tree. So they run a similar offense. You know what that means? You got to be able to run the ball. Jeff Wilson got hurt, and Raheem Mostert is not playing as well. So Miami can't run the ball to help Huntley as he's trying to acclimate himself to what's going on in Miami, learn the playbook, learn the players. That's a different playbook than where he was when he was with Baltimore. He spent a lot of years there. So with that being said, you got to see Huntley probably incorporate some more of the offense. Also, too, they got to get some of those running backs. And then they got to get some of those running backs back. Then the other thing is I'm hearing that everything out of Miami is saying Tua is tracking to return at some point. The question is, will his return be too late for them to try and make a playoff run?
Nah, that will be the question. I mean, a lot of talent on the roster. Like you said, got to get some players back. But definitely, I know Miami fans have to be going through it, after some of the seasons they had before now. And then,
right.
Tua, I mean, it's going I'm praying for him, man, whatever happens. I mean, because it's been some of the trying moments watching
Right.
him, suffer, through concussions and different things like that on the football field. But the second game, well, not the second, because both of them was going on at the same time.
Same
But
time.
that's a headache in itself. But you had the Seattle Seahawks and the Detroit Lions. They look good. They won 42-29. Both teams are 3-1. Seattle came into the game undefeated at 3-0. Took their first loss. Geno Smith, though, before I get to Detroit, he threw for 395 yards, one touchdown, one interception. Typically, you would think with some of the numbers that they had, they probably would have walked. If you just looked at the numbers, you thought they probably walked away with a win. But the defense gave up way too many points. Jared Goff was 18 for 18.
Crazy.
292 yards, two touchdowns. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, he threw a touchdown pass to Goff in that game. But no, just that game was a little bit more electrifying. Of course, I like to see teams put it in the end zone. But Detroit, like I said, they look good. Like I said, they sitting in a good position. 2-1 at home. I rarely think about Detroit losing at home during this stretch of where they've been a competitive team. But Jared Goff, man, I'm kind of happy for him, man. Some of these quarterbacks have had some slumps in and out from some years, and then now to see them finally have a home and can be settled. Looking good. Like I said, 18 for 18. I think you might be able to let me know, but it was a record. He set a record somewhere in between there. I don't know exactly what the record is, but he set a record in between there. But your thoughts on that matchup?
Yeah, so the record that he set was the most attempted passes without an incompletion in the game.
Okay.
So, yeah, but I'll say this again, props to Jared Goff, props to him. But you know where that all starts again, because Jared Goff is the way that he plays the quarterback position. People throw this out here a lot, right? They throw out this term game manager as if it's some sort of a term that people are using to disrespect someone. Here's the deal. When you go through the annals of NFL history, I know when Peyton won his first Super Bowl with the Colts, he had, I think Joseph Adai maybe had 80-some yards rushing. And then I think Dominic Rhodes went over 100. So that's almost 200 yards rushing with Peyton Manning's on the roster. Definitely when he won it in Denver, they were playing defense and running the ball. That's how they won the Super Bowl. There was one Super Bowl where Patrick Mahomes won it, and you can say Damian Williams probably should have won MVP in that Super Bowl. So all of these quarterbacks, if they're going to win and they're going to win big, you got to play complementary football. I say that because when you look at Jared Goff, they got a two-headed monster at running back in Detroit. That's what between Gibbs and Montgomery. Montgomery made big plays. There was one play where he just straight buffaloing people on the run. So, so with that being said, like they have a two-headed monster at running back that allows Jared Goff to get in play action. And if you allow him to get in play action, he's going to pick you apart. So running game, complementary football matters. Their receiving core with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams, who is a threat to score a touchdown every single time. Like their receiving core is electric. So that's another thing that really helps Jared Goff as well. So they also got a really good tight end, Sam Laporta. So almost everything that you need to be a really, really good football team and be a good football team late, Detroit has it. And if their defense can really stop you from running the ball and they're getting pressure from other places other than Hutchinson, Detroit's dangerous, man.
No, I'll take that. Just to round out the current NFL standings. Starting with the AFC, you got Buffalo Bills at 3-1 in the AFC East. AFC North, you got the Pittsburgh Steelers at 3-1. AFC South, you got Houston Texans 3-1. AFC West, you have Kansas City at 4-0. The NFC, you have NFC East. You got the Washington Commanders at 3-1. We'll talk about them before we get out of here because I definitely like I like Daniels, Mr. Daniels over there. AFC North, you got Minnesota at 4-0. Love Justin Jefferson. NFC South, you got Tampa Bay at 3-1. NFC West, you got the Seattle Seahawks at 3-1. Just to talk about the Commanders for a second, you know, they're a prized possession right now. Mr. Jaden Daniels, what you think about them, Willie?
Man, first off, I'll say this, man. If you want to know one of the places where Jaden Daniels gets his confidence from, check out that interview with that video with Jaden Daniels' mom was talking to the owners of the team. The stance is all confidence. That's where the crown comes from. So, man, I'm going to tell you this, though. When you watch what great quarterback play gives a team is hope. If you don't believe me, look no further than the Jets, what was going on over the years before they acquire Aaron Rodgers. Once you have hope, you know what that does? I know we got these analytics. Man, I'm going to tell you, OG, there is no analytic measurement that can really, really measure hope. And what that hope does is make guys play above their pay grade. They're playing at a higher level than maybe what you expect because they believe. And, you know, what does our guy Prime say when he was in Atlanta? Believe, right? That you see it all the time. So for me, man, what he gives them is hope. They feel like they can win every game. Here's the thing about him. He is leading the league in completion percentage. I don't want him to take as many hits as he's taking, but again, leading the league in completion percentage. You know what else the Commanders are leading the league in? Third down conversions. When you can convert on third down, keep the ball out of the opposing team's hands, that's in effect playing defense, and it's giving you more opportunities to score, man. I love what Jaden Daniels is doing. Let me say this, man. Jaden Daniels, Jared Goff, C.J. Stroud, what do they all have in common? OG, they all from the West.
Yeah, you love that.
Absolutely.
Just to give you some numbers, man, Jaden Daniels in 4 games, and was a rookie. 87 completions, 106 attempts, 897 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, been sacked 9 times, but rushing, 46 carries, 218 yards, with 4 touchdowns. And this is the thing. It's kind of put me into the spirit of when RG3 played for Washington.
Yes.
I get nervous every time I see Jaden Daniels take off because if you remember, like everybody else remember, especially the Washington fans, is they ran RG3 to death.
Right.
And,
right.
So I hope that doesn't I don't foresee that happening with Jaden Daniels. Don't want to see it happen, but it's just something that I think about because, I mean, they ran him to death. But, like I said, 46 carries, I mean, obviously, he's the second leading rusher on the team. Almost has the most rushing yards. Robinson Jr. is 307 yards on 20 more carries, so go figure what may happen in the next game. But just to close out the NFL, any games you looking forward to seeing this week?
Man, you know what? I was looking at the schedule. One of the things I'm looking forward to seeing is we got the Bucks in Atlanta. I'm looking forward to seeing that game because that is a battle for the NFC South. I know the Saints are playing well also, but Atlanta's got some big wins. And then, of course, the Bucks are playing really, really well. I would look for Baker Mayfield is probably, I think, third in the most sacked quarterback in the league. I think he's third. I think he's been sacked like 15 times. Here's the other thing. Atlanta has not been able to generate a pass rush. They are last in the league in sacks. So if they really, really want to have some success against the Bucks and beat them, they got to find a way. And I know Raheem Morris is a defensive coach. They got to find a way to really generate some pressure and put that on Baker Mayfield, get him out of his element. Because again, if you allow him to just sit back there and stay back there, he's going to continue to grow in confidence. He will also pick you apart when you got Chris Godwin on one side and Mike Evans, who continues to be great on the other side. So, man, I would look for that. That's a game I'm really looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, I'm not. Now that's the Thursday night game. Now I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. I don't watch every game. I don't be intrigued by every game. We talk about the main games. I lean on A. Willie for a lot of the other games and the other stats and numbers. But big game for my Texans. They got the Bills.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The beauty of that is it's at home. That's a 1 o'clock game, and then of course the Sunday night game, you got the Cowboys and Steelers. Will be tuned in for that. And then the Monday night game, Saints and Chiefs. I'm watching Mahomes every time he's on the screen. Even if he's not on the screen, I'm on the apps watching him. I mean, because he's just fun to watch. But those are games that I'll be locked into, and we'll be talking about it next week. As we do at the end of any Troll Time show, man. Hey, Willie, you got anything that you want to get off your chest, man?
I do, man. Tennessee Athletic Program, actually the administration at the university, y'all should be ashamed of you all selves. Because if you're going to sit up here and tell me we're going to put an additional surcharge on tickets so we can afford to, I guess it's the athletic tax. Because if we're going to have NIL, we're going to have to also make sure that we recoup some of that money. Here's the thing. You all aren't engaged in revenue sharing. The money that you get from these television contracts, you are not giving that to any of those players that play at Tennessee, whether that's basketball, football, volleyball, whatever the sport. You're not giving them any of that money. So why are we charging the tax? And in addition, if you have enough money to pay Cupcakes to come to Rocky Top and play football, you can pay them $500,000, $1 million to show up to play a game. Why do you have to charge a tax? Or are you just being greedy? I got to get that off my chest, man.
Understood. My last words, good show. We'll be talking about football on a weekly basis, college and NFL. If you haven't, it's a series on Amazon Prime, The Evolution of the Black Quarterback. It's something that I'm going to dive deeper into. I started watching it, but I'm going to finish. And then it's another one, I want to say it's on Hulu or FX, the Aaron Hernandez. That's the American Sports Story. It's interesting. I've been tuned in. We're gonna talk about it on the show.
Absolutely.
Probably next week we'll talk about it. But it's one to watch. But it's basically showing the earlier years of Aaron Hernandez and a lot of different things that he may have transpired when from high school to college into the pros. But it's interesting. So yeah, we'll be locked into that, and then
Sure.
as always, I'm here to laugh, show love, promote, talk sports, movies, joke, and troll. Catch us on the next episode.